time to go on with this information day.
Michel, sorry,
yes?
just a second. We are not there yet. When I stop sharing, my screen, when you see your...
saw a red. Okay, I saw a red dot.
Just wait for another 2 minutes. I can even send something in the chat. When I stop sharing my screen, it means that
I don't see the chat either, so let me open the chat.
But do you see me sharing something?
I see a slide on the screen.
Okay,
yes.
Then when I stop it, you can start.
Okay. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I think it's time to go on with this information day. Welcome to the afternoon session. Let me introduce myself. My name is Michel Schouppe. I'm from the Open Science Unit A4 in DGRTD. I'm dealing with the EOSC implementation and happy to chair this session on the INFRAEOSC destination and its goal in 2023. I'm sorry my camera is not on, but that's no problem, provided you can hear me and see the slides that will be coming soon. Let me first give a general scheme for this session. We will have 6 topics to be presented by several colleagues. This will be followed by a Q&A session of 15 to 20 minutes. And the aim is to stop this session around 3:15. There will be 4 presenters, including my colleague Javier Lopez Albacete and Costas Repanas, who both work with me in the Open Science Unit. But in addition, this INFRAEOSC destination is co-implemented with our colleagues in DG Connect. And I'm very pleased that Peter Tsegedi has been able to join us. He's from the Open Science and Digital Modeling Unit in Connect C1. So with the first slide, I'd like to give an introduction to the INFRAEOSC destination as a whole. So we aim to develop an ecosystem of research data that are as open as possible, as fair as possible, and the related data services. So the EOSC is mainly driven by 2 policies, the European Agenda for Open Science, which is aiming at a free circulation of publicly funded research output, being data, software codes, and publications, within and across border, within and across disciplines. The second driver is the European Strategy for Data, and EOSC is defined there as a basis for a data space for science, research, and innovation, which shall be articulated with other sectoral data spaces being health, mobility, or the Green Deal, just to give few examples. So the overall impact of the whole destination are to stimulate excellent science, innovation, and productivity of research. It's about increasing the availability of high volumes of open and fair research data. It's also about improving reproducibility of science, which is very needed to have trust, societal trust in science. So these are the overall impacts. This destination is defined in the context of an EOSC European co-program partnership, and co-programmed means in line with a strategic research and innovation agenda till 2030, and various roadmaps elaborated by the EOSC Association, its members, and the wider research community. And this is the reason why all projects financed under this destination are expected to participate in concertation activities in the context of the partnership. So that's the general introduction to the destination. We have a budget of about 69 million euros in 2023. We'll have one call and 6 topics that we are going to detail now. So let me start by the first topic called, named Infra 2023 EOSC 0101. It's about building on the science cluster approach to ensure the uptake of EOSC by research infrastructures and research communities. This is a RIA type of action. We have a quite significant budget of about 25 million euros, and we expect to fund up to 1 RIA with this budget. The call should open in principle tomorrow with a deadline on the 9th of March. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, thank you. Yes. So here are more details about this topic. The focus is really to go beyond what an individual research infrastructure is doing and to go for cross-domain, cross-research infrastructure collaboration, and to continue an effort of alignment between research infrastructures that has taken place since 2019, when we have been funding 5 science cluster projects in key research domains, ranging from particle physics and astronomy, environmental sciences and earth sciences, proton and neutron sciences, life sciences, and social sciences and humanities. And this effort has been started in Horizon 2020 to enable open science practices and fair implementation within clusters of research infrastructure. We would like to go on with this effort and to make wider research communities benefiting from the expertise gained by those clusters. So the expected outcomes are the following. To support all, and that's important, European research communities to contribute to and benefit from a user-oriented EOSC. When I say all, this means, of course, these research infrastructure, and there are more than 40 involved in the 5 science clusters, but going beyond these research infrastructure as well and their user communities, so that we can also support less structured, less engaged communities into the EOSC. To do this, we will make use of open calls and cascading grants for open science and fair use cases. So this should really allow to reach out to these new communities and involve them in using and contributing EOSC resources. We want to increase alignment of S3 infrastructure and international research infrastructures on the deployment of the EOSC Core and the EOSC Exchange, which are 2 important modules of the EOSC platform that will be procured from next year onwards as a European node in the EOSC Federation. Another objective is to develop sustainability models, again, in this context of cross-RI collaboration and services that can be offered to users across national borders. And we hope for this activity to provide also feedback on operational user needs regarding the EOSC offering and the EOSC Federation. In short, this activity will have two strands of activities. I said we have 25 million euros. 7 million of this amount will be dedicated to extending the alignment efforts between the clusters and to develop competence centers to continue aligning the fair and open agenda with the usual communities. But we also expect about 18 million euros to be spent on the second trend of activity, which is about these use cases for multidisciplinary research with a wide user community. I think in a nutshell, this is what I can present for the first topic, and I'd like to give the floor for the next topic to my colleague, Javier. Javier, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you, Michel, and hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Yes, I am indeed going to present the second topic within the INFRAEOSC destination. I guess we can move to the next slide, which is the cover for this topic. Thank you very much. So yeah, the title of this topic is Development of Community-Based Approaches for Ensuring and Improving the Quality of Scientific Software and Code. Again, this is also a research and innovation action that has an indicative budget of 8 million euro, through which we expect indicatively as well to fund one project. Next slide, please. So yes, the overall objective of this topic is to improve the quality of software and code, as well as of other digital objects that are based on code, like workflows, computational models, etc. Of course, the notion of quality here relates to the context of this call, which is the development of the EOSC, and also mostly to the technical and organizational aspects of the software. A few comments to provide additional context. The first one is that, well, software sustainability is being mainstream across Europe, and the quality of software is a key ingredient for improving the reproducibility of research, and that is at the core of this topic. On the other hand, research software can and should be regarded as a first-class research output in the very same way as data sets and publications, for instance, are regarded. Moreover, there is an additional aspect of software that makes it particularly important, is that it is key for improving the reproducibility of research. So with this context in mind, the main expected outcomes of this call are as follows, are indicated there. The first of all is to establish and promote frameworks for community curation of software that ensures its quality. And very importantly, that this framework is valid across different disciplines, which is the territory, let's say, spanned by EOSC across discipline. Of course, for this to be useful, it would be needed as well to deploy infrastructure, tools, and services that allow the researchers to actually characterize the software or these digital objects accordingly with the proper metadata, versioning, archiving, sharing, and reuse of research software. Thirdly, another outcome is a definition of the notion of software quality in the specific context of the EOSC. And to do so, one expects that the projects would build on established practices and would follow the FAIR principles established across communities. It is also important to define a baseline of quality indicators along the notion of what is the minimum quality expected for research software and related digital objects. Of course, with the notion of fit for purpose as a guidance. General outcome, expected outcome of this call is to improve the quality of research software, as I said, mostly from the technical and organizational point of view, both at the general level, for instance, data that is done for data analysis, software that is done for data analysis, but also in particular for the software used in the services offered through EOSC via the Exchange platform. And finally, another expected outcome is that is to improve and maximize the sustainability and the reuse of software. So all these expected outcomes relate to a long list of expected activities that are shown in the next slide. If you could move to the next one. And we move to the next slide. There it is. Thank you. The list is very long, is detailed in the work program itself, and I am not going to describe each of these expected activities in detail because they are, I think, clearly connected to the expected outcomes. But let me highlight the one to last, which is to develop FAIR metrics frameworks for digital objects. This is a particular field where there is much to do, and we really expect projects to engage in this, along as all the others, which I leave for the Q&A if needed, because it's quite a long list. And okay, this is what I would like to present about this topic, and I guess I can pass the floor to my colleague to present the next one. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much, Javier. So my name is Kostas Repanas. I would like to present to you the third topic, 0103. Before I do so, remember that you can ask questions on Slido, and the hashtag, the ID is RIID 2022. So that's RIID 2022. And if we can go to the next one, please. So this is a research and innovation action with the title Planning, Tracking and Assessing Scientific Knowledge Production. We expect a budget around 8 million and fund one proposal for this with the same timing that Michel mentioned before. And the next slide, please. So in this topic, we would like to focus on methodologies, workflows, and tools for planning research activities, tracking their impact, and assessing their compliance with the FAIR principles. And the focus here is on data management plans and how they can become more machine actionable and how can they be automatically evaluated. Then focus on the importance of scientific knowledge graphs and how we can track different science events like citations or data reuse, software reuse, and then how we can link all those digital objects to visualize and trace beyond publications and data, what is the activity that a researcher is creating. So some of the outcomes that we expect are that data management plans become standardized in their let's say, discipline parts. So some discipline agnostic parts become standardized, and this will help the automatic evaluation and develop metrics for data management plans. Then to adopt scientific knowledge graphs so that the research ecosystem becomes more transparent. And finally, we can have policies, models, workflows, and tools that will enable implementation of metrics to assess and improve the fairness of a wide range of digital objects. Again, the emphasis here is not only on established, let's say, digital objects such as publications and data, but moving beyond, going to software, models, workflows, really anything that can be considered a digital object. So finally, summarizing the scope, we would like to see the planning of research activities by using machine actionable data management plans. And this can refer to DMPs being integrated in the research process, but also in the evaluation of the research process. How we can track research contribution and the impact by enhancing the interoperability of the various knowledge graphs for different digital objects. And this connects, of course, with our great effort to reform the research assessment. So go beyond tracking publications, journal impact factors and so on, but really have a more holistic view on what is the research production of someone with all those different digital objects being connected. And finally, to assess how close to the FAIR principles are those digital objects, possibly moving to FAIR by design digital objects. Thank you very much, and we can go to Peter.
Thank you very much. This is Peter Segadi. I work for DigiConnect. So as Michel mentioned at the very beginning, the INFRAEOSC destination is co-implemented with DigiConnect and DigiRTD. So I'm going to present you 3 topics of calls that are all managed by DigiConnect. So the first one, if I can go to the next slide, is titled the EOSC 0104, and it's about the next generation services for operational and sustainable EOSC Core Infrastructure. All the calls that are managed by DigiConnect are related somehow to the EOSC infrastructure platform, and this is one of the first one, which is related to the core. This type of action is a research and innovation action. The expected budget is around 10 million, and we want one potential candidate or proposal to implement this action. On the next slide, you can see the context. Basically, data-driven user experience is the fundamental aspects of the further development of the EOSC core. On the right-hand side, you see the reference architecture for EOSC, and the top green box at the bottom indicates the core functionalities, coordination functions, and the technical platform. And this is exactly what this call is related to. So our expected outcomes in that respect is to have a next generation of enabling infrastructure and services for the EOSC core that goes beyond the current minimum viable EOSC platform of today. We expect some enhanced design of the EOSC core functionalities, taking into account the aforementioned data-driven scientific use cases. We also expect to improve the integration options and the service composability of the participating services, data sources, software tools, research outcomes within the EOSC Federation. And we also expect to improve sustainability, financial sustainability, with a kind of incubation or technology testbed infrastructure that can sort of pilot new core technologies and new core functionalities that can later on be rolled out into production. Next slide, please. So the bit more detailed scope in order to achieve these expectations is, of course, to improve the core functions, including the execution framework, design and develop components, comprehensive EOSC integration service suite. This is, we believe, needed in order to improve the composability of the various services. And the other aspects of this improvement is an open API registry management and development service, including testing workflows, which should also contribute to achieving the aforementioned increased level of integration and composability. We also expect proposals to support custom-made front-end portals. As a federation, we expect multiple input or multiple front ends to the federation, so we need to harmonize these across the community. So this would be to facilitate that, and also the sort of transition towards a incubation or testbed environment where the community can pilot and test new core functionalities, like a staging environment before they actually being accepted and rolled out into production, could also be one of the scopes of the proposals. Next slide, please. All right, so the second call is about the EOSC architecture and interoperability framework. This is a coordination and support action, CSA, The indicated budget is 3 million, and again, one proposal is accepted. The next slide, please. So referring to the very same reference architecture, again, on the right-hand side, you see that the EOSC interoperability framework is one of the cross-cutting horizontal topics that allow the federation to operate. And what we need is proper coordination and governance to ensure this interoperability is built on top of a community consensus with a structured, fair, and transparent manner. Therefore, our expected outcomes are as follows. So the robust governance structure, coordination, maintenance for the interoperability framework, well-established design, specification, and review processes. It could be in the form of an established multi-stakeholder architecture board who does the curation and the maintenance of these interoperability frameworks. Of course, some interaction to or synergies to existing standardization bodies and standardization activities across the board are expected. And also some reach out dissemination and reach out activities to the scientific and research community in order to increase the engagement level and the promotion of these interoperability frameworks. Next slide, please. So in order to achieve these expectations, of course, the scope, there can be multiple things in this scope. The main things are listed on this slide. So is in fact the structure itself to manage, update, circulate, and promote the interoperability frameworks and guidelines. The coordination activity to establish these frameworks as necessary to support the communities who are actually defining and making these frameworks available via the library. Also to provide an organizational framework for establishing a multi-stakeholder architecture board who will then can review and sort of curate these frameworks. And of course, a process needs to be defined with guidelines and in order to make sure that the implementation of the core at the multiple levels, not just at the European level, but also national, regional levels follow the same process and methodology. Next one, please. Third and the last goal for DigiConnect in this destination is about trusted environments for sensitive data management in EOSC. This is again a research and innovation action. The indicative budget 15 million, and the reason for that is that we expect more than one proposals in this case, around 3, so it would be an average 5 million contribution per each. Next slide, please. So what we actually want to achieve here, again, showing the reference architecture, we are talking about now all those thematic and regional clusters who's supposed to connect via the EOSC core platform. And actually, we want to focus on those clusters and regional domains where there are some sensitive data or special environments for sensitive data sharing and processing available. So the expected outcome in this case is to sort of an improvement or expansion of EOSC access to those specific thematic domains. Could be those provided by public authorities, national governments, national agencies who have highly sensitive data in certain disciplines, obviously one's a health sector or government or specific strategic geolocations and such like that mentioned in the call text, but obviously any highly sensitive data areas would be of interest of this call. And what we actually want to achieve as an outcome is to try and create a trusted environment within EOSC, which would then allow the processing and sharing of those sensitive data within the EOSC Federation. Also, we want to be demonstrated how the FAIR data flows can be applied on those sensitive data. Of course, that sensitive data is not always open. It's only open as possible and closed as necessary. nevertheless, the FAIR principles should apply. So it should be findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And this is what we want the proposal to demonstrate how this can be achieved within the framework of EOSC. Next slide, please. So the scope of this is one example that is mentioned in the call is a possibility to creating the so-called government zones or specific cages. It's more like the industry term for data centers, where you create a specific part of your data center where you physically secure your data, which are sensitive. So imagine this in the context of EOSC as a virtual space. And of course, we're looking into various ways how that data can be accessed and also how that data can be processed in a secure and protected environment, taking into account all the FAIR principles. Again, some examples are mentioned in the call text, which corresponds to secure data storage, data anonymization, and publishing anonymized data in compliant repositories, but more like the processing workflows of sensitive data, which would be an interesting angle of this proposal, and how to use this sensitive data actually in case where public cloud hosted environments are involved, and how we can mention that this make sure that this is handled in a way that that data, the original data source, sensitive data source requires. So that was the last slide, I think, and I now give back the word to Michel.
Thank you very much, Peter. Meanwhile, I changed office so that I can also be visible on the camera, which will be easier, I think, for the Q&A session. So I'd like to thank all the colleagues for this quick overview on the 6 topics under the INFRAEOSC destination. Now it's time for questions and answers. We have quite some time, up to 45 minutes. And okay, my colleagues have already extracted several questions. So let's address them one by one. I think the first relates to industrial partners, whether they are encouraged or expected in EOSC calls, or is this destination mainly dedicated to academic players? I can start answering this question, and maybe I will give the floor to Peter after that. Regarding the topic on the cluster of clusters, I did mention that there will be use cases to address multidisciplinary questions by teams that will apply to an open call, and if they are successful, get some cascaded grants to do their activities. Yes, these use cases are not only for academic people. I mean, this is open to also to public authorities and commercial entities to participate in such use cases. We need to implement the FAIR agenda, not only within research performing organizations that are of a public nature. I think the FAIR agenda and open access and sharing to data concerns actually all players in Europe. So yes, at least for topic 0101, the answer is positive. Peter, do you want to complete this answer from the perspective of your topics in DG Connect?
Yes, thank you, Michel. And I have to say the same. So all 3 calls in the context of EOSC that is owned by DG Connect, we encourage industry partners as well to engage and consider those calls together with the academic partners, of course, because we like to strengthen the operational aspects of EOSC to be a 24/7 production quality infrastructure, which would require, of course, the specific areas where industry can engage with the academic community.
Very good. I see another question related to underrepresented research communities, including those in the long tail of science. How would they be engaged in this call? Yes, cascading grants are a typical way to open up our future research activities beyond the usual INFRAEOSC community. So in the context of topic 0101 on the cluster approach, we want to capitalize on the expertise by these 5 clusters who have already an expertise in verification of data and promotion of open science practices within their user communities. We want to build on their ability to run expressions of interest and open calls for proposals. But these calls would be really open widely. So what will, that this is a way to reach out to also small research teams, for instance, those ones working in universities. We would like to, through this open call, to allow small teams, teams working in communities that are less developed, to also participate in the EOSC implementation and the uptake of the best tools and practices we have developed so far in the EOSC context.
And maybe if I can add, Michel, we have seen that this works quite well. We have seen this in particular in one of the clusters, EOSC Live, the cluster for life science infrastructures, and they have used open calls, and we have seen a lot of engagement. So I think it's a very positive tool.
I think also the work program refers to the role of university associations and learned societies. These might be acting as multipliers to promote those open calls, for instance, because they have the connections to Europe, universities across the era, across Europe. So this is one reason why this is mentioned in the work program. Then we have a, yeah.
Michel, so I see these 2 questions related to the Connect side, if I may answer them. Okay.
Please read them first.
So the one, how will the call on the next generation services for operational and sustainable EOSC Core Infrastructure interact or relate to the procurement call? I cannot comment on the procurement at the moment. I encourage everyone to look into the official communications of the Commission about procurement. What I can comment on is the actual call and the process that we're thinking about. So the intention or the expected outcome is to make the EOSC core services operational as a production grade, production quality service. That obviously requires a agile development based on constant feedback from the community, and that's what we want to implement. So this call, when it kind of pilots or tries the next generation, the next iteration round of an operational core infrastructure, is expected to interact or relate to the production environment, of course. So think about the usual process of a test dev environment, a staging environment, and a production environment. This call is there to make sure that the community can propose the next generation of service components and elements that are then fully compliant and interoperable with the existing core infrastructure services, and they are then gradually can be rolled out into production. And the second one, could you please elaborate more on the data centers in the context of EOSC? Perhaps this question refers to my statement, which I wanted to illustrate the government cages of data centers for sensitive data as a physical concept. What I can tell is that EOSC is an evolving federation, and the federation members have the most possible autonomy to implement their services as they wish. Some may involve hosting on their own premises, some would imply hosting in community clouds. Others could be deployed in public clouds. Of course, this information is very relevant, and we need to know this when what services are deployed where and what are the actual usage conditions when it comes to sensitive data and how we handle them. So in that context, when you think about the sensitive environment data for sensitive environments for sensitive data call, definitely think about those data center locations that are suitable for hosting or processing those kind of data. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Peter, for these clarifications. I'm just looking at my colleagues whether we have additional questions coming through the Slido application. I don't think this is the case, so we are in advance, no problem. This can happen as well. We probably have been very clear. So I'd like to add two small remarks, but important remarks. The good news is that it's now confirmed that the work program 23-24 has been adopted today by the Commission. That's excellent. This means that please, you can go and have a look on the Horizon Europe portal from tomorrow onwards to see the exact details of the calls. I think with this, I'd like to close this session. Of course, the Info Day goes on, so we now have a break, and we will reconvene at 3:30 for the next session. And with this, I'd like to thank you all and to thank the colleagues who have presented this destination. Thank you very much.